Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where Executive Coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hi there, leaders. It's Alicia Cowan. Welcome to episode number 23 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. Today is the last day of September as I record this, and we are about to head into October tomorrow, and I can hardly believe it. Fall in Florida does look a little bit different than different parts of the country. Of course, it's going to be a high of 88 today, so still definitely feels a little bit like summer, but there is a definite shift. Last weekend, we went to Universal Studios and they had all of the Halloween things out and ready. And there just is this shift into fall and the upcoming really holiday season, if you will, here in the US. And it's exciting. It feels different. It feels different and like a shift. And for us, as we're building a house here in Westwood Chapel area, it's exciting because as we come to the close of the end of the year, we're still anticipating, with our fingers crossed, to move into our new home. In the past week, they've completed the stucco and the painting on the outside. They put garage doors on. And so some of the external stuff is really getting wrapped up. They're going to start to move to some of the external or internal finishings. And we're getting closer. So we're possibly about a month or so away from getting our 30-day notice to potentially move in December. So please keep your fingers and toes and everything crossed in for us. Oh, we're hoping to get in there by the end of the year. So that's what fall signifies for us as a family that is big into the holidays and especially Christmas. Everyone's sort of a buzz and getting really excited. So that's what's going around in the Cowan household. And as always, I want to share what is also happening within coaching sessions and the themes that I've been hearing as I've been coaching you leaders. This week, we're going to talk about coaching versus directing your team members. So if you've ever felt the feeling of that kind of fix-it mode when you get approached by a team member that has an issue or needs some advice or wants your perspective on something, and you feel like the sense of urgency to like jump in and provide the answers, or if there's an issue, you just want to help just quickly give the solution. And it could be really, really clear to you. And you just want to jump in and provide that solution and move on so that productivity can continue. So if you've ever felt that sense of urgency to jump in and go into fix-it mode, sometimes I know you've probably felt this. You may know that it may not be always the best approach to take. And so the question you might be asking is, okay, when is the time to coach, to flat out give direction, because sometimes that is appropriate, maybe to provide advice, or sometimes just provide a listening ear. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is when is the right time to do some of those different things. So specifically, we'll focus on coaching. So, and I want to shout out to two recent clients that I've been coaching on this topic, because both had a really strong sense of their responsibility as leaders to the work of coaching their teams and loved it and realized the importance of it and how it really can compound over time and be really, really effective in developing their leaders to be even stronger. So they know it's the right approach, but we coach through how to work through it when sometimes your own thoughts get in the way. So let's talk about a couple examples of this and what this could look like for you. The two examples I heard this week was, number one, there was a leader that I was coaching and recently took on a C-suite role and had this big realization. You're reflecting back over, the time frame that she's been in role, and one of her takeaways and realizations was that she had no idea going into the role how much coaching and dedication to developing leadership that it would require of her. And it wasn't a negative by any means. She, said, about 40% of my time is really spent coaching the team. And she's like, I really realized that I've had to do a lot of self-management and coaching on my own internal struggle, because being someone who's highly operational and likes to really get stuff done, she realized the internal struggle that she was having was fighting that desire to just, again, give the answers and move on, to provide, the advice or the recommendation and really just plow through to the next step, to productivity and getting things done, rather than listening and coaching, even though she knew it was the right thing to do. So we worked through coaching through that, and we'll talk through some of the tips that I talked through here in a bit. And the second, similar thought process, like realized, in the role of being a leader and taking on more direct reports, this leader loved it, and realized that that's truly that where she wanted to add a lot of value. And she realized that she had a lot of passion for the work, but really didn't make time for it, for development time of her team. And so we really worked through, it was really more time management practices, but to allow for more space for it. So let's talk through that feeling. Let's first talk through the feeling that might bubble up and how to sit with the desire in order to fix it. So here's what it might look like. You have to have a lot of self-awareness here, and emotional management during this process. That's going to be key and what we're really going to be practicing here. But here's what might happen. If you notice, again, a team member approaches you and asks for some time, again, maybe it's an issue, maybe it's for advice, maybe it's for mentorship, whatever the situation is, right? They're coming with maybe an ask. And it's important to notice in that moment how you're thinking about the ask and how you're feeling. And how it might feel to you is like this sense of urgency. It might also feel like a desire to go fast, right? So that speediness. And it might show up in like actions of wanting to interrupt or actually interrupting. And right, you can kind of feel that. And I talked to these two different clients, and one had this, like, it kind of bubbled up in her stomach. She knew, she's like, I felt it bubble up in my stomach. I could feel it just like wanting to come out, where I just wanted to give the answer and move on. And the other felt it like in her throat, like, because she was like basically constricting her throat, because she was like, I just had this strong desire to like speak and just talk over or talk interrupted the associate. And again, great emotional management, because they paused and didn't do those things, but it's important to recognize. And so why I say that is because self-awareness is so important here. It's almost like observing it, like it's in the palm of your hand, of like just noticing, like, oh, that feeling to jump in and fix it, that sense of urgency and speed really is coming up. And here's why. And again, it's really normal. I think high-performing leaders that do have a lot of answers and are highly intelligent and driven and great at problem solving, right? It's totally normal. So I think the second piece is here is, when you do have the self-awareness, not to beat yourself up and use it against yourself to say something's gone wrong. It's totally normal. That's where the second piece, the emotional management, comes in. So you can address this in the moment by, again, we're looking at it in the palm of our hand and just notice, oh, I'm moving into fix it mode. There it is again. There's me wanting to jump into it. And then that's where you can assess, like, is this the right thing to do in this moment, to jump into fix it mode? Now, again, like I said, there are times that it is 100% appropriate, and you should jump into fix it mode. If there's emergencies or situations where like someone really does not have answers and we need to move fast in order to get the answers, there's times where it's really, really appropriate. However, if you're finding that it's not one of those situations, you may want to have a different feeling that you want to shift into. And that could look like something like, I want to shift into being more calm, or maybe I want to shift into being more curious. Maybe I want to shift into feeling more a coach-like mode. And what you can do instead is just redirect your brain again. So again, we're looking this is an external person, looking this palm in your hand, say, oh, there it is, right? The sense of urgency. I prefer, right? Calm, curious, coach mode. And what you can do is redirect your brain onto that. And some simple options and exercises could just be just in that moment, feel it, notice it, and then just breathe through it. Okay. So take a couple of deep breaths while you're still actively listening to this person, but take a couple of breaths And then shift your focus and redirect your brain on like deeply listening to the person that's in front of you. You can tune in to the other person and what they're saying and just refocus and redirect your brain there. So, this first step of the emotional management and the self awareness is really the coaching portion of this, right? That's where you really are doing a little bit of self coaching of yourself to really like think about how you want to go into it. Again, calm, curiosity, great two options to start with, but there might be some other ones that feel more available and right and appropriate to you. But that's going to be really helping you shift into the feeling, because then we can start to address some of the tactics. If you try to jump into some of the tactics without the feeling, they may come off a little misdirected. So now let's jump into the actual tactics that we can like take the next step after we're feeling calm and curious. So a few basic steps for coaching your associates. So here we go. 1, assess the situation and decide what kind of coaching is necessary. So again, there will always be scenarios in which people simply need to be told what to do. And other times, so let's say they're struggling with like a deeply important career decision, it might be more appropriate to offer like a non-directive coaching method, but do nothing more with it. And it's also possible that people don't need any coaching at all right now, but they just would really value you just listening and having an open ear to them. And a really easy way to do this is just to ask. So that's step number 1. Assess, listen to maybe what may be appropriate, and you also get a chance to ask as you're in this assessment period. Okay. Step 2, just truly listen. Here's a really good rule of thumb for this situation. Just get quiet and listen. As you're absorbing what people are telling you, you can be alert to what their tone of voice is, their body language is, and then you get a chance to decide how you want to respond. You don't have to respond as you usually might. Instead, you just get to listen to understand. You can also have an option, again, of repeating back what you want to hear or what you have heard to make sure that you get it right, but avoid that interruption or jumping in. And you can really leave room for silence. And especially at the end of the conversation, it's at times when some of the most important stuff emerges is out of that deep silence. All right. So that's step number 2, actively listen. Step 3, then you can go into that curiosity mode, asking open-ended questions. Now, when we say open-ended, quite simply, a yes/no question typically shuts down thinking. Open-ended ones will expand it. So you have a lot of different options here. They don't have to be super complex or clever. Sometimes something simple like, what else? Is simple and best. So what's vital though here is that these questions demonstrate your authentic interest and belief in the person that you're coaching. And sometimes this is super hard to work on, even if the person's performance has you maybe doubtful. But if you suspend judgment here, you may be surprised with what you're hearing. So that's 3. Practice asking really open-ended questions to get the other person talking and going even deeper. Step 4 is just practice non-directive coaching. And what non-directive coaching is it's simple. Like this practice being disciplined and sustained is key by not giving outright just straight advice and direction. And you'll know that you're getting good at this when people start to have breakthrough or aha moments, or even they walk away thanking you, even though you really didn't feel like you told them much. That's when you know, or 2 indications that could mean that you are doing this correctly. So, non-directive coaching. So, not just coming out and telling somebody what to do. All right. So, hopefully, this is super helpful. Again, one leader that I worked with, we did a really tactical step of just like trying to make time and plan for it. She said it was her favorite part of the job. So we worked through her calendar, ensure she had time to coach her team. So that's another tip that you might want to take away. I can't say enough. Practice using the skill and these questions to use and evaluating the situation using some of the tips that we talked about. And I can't stress this enough. This is an investment that is compounding in interest. It will really pay off over time. to allow associates to be coached, to let them come to some of their own conclusions, to allow them to have open, deep conversations. And there are probably a handful of very significant conversations that you as a senior leader are going to have with your team that will make them walk away thinking and leading themselves differently. And so really thinking about maximizing and utilizing that time to make a deep impact is so, so, so important. All right, senior leaders, we are on a mission. We are on this passionate movement to make workplaces and leadership better, right? I think we're in a place that we've seen a leadership drought. And I think you, just by being here and listening and being open to developing yourself even further as a leader, is so amazing. So thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you ever need help with any of this or want to talk through any situation that you're having with leading a team, you can reach out to me. My website is ElishaCowan.com. It's ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. And as always, I'm happy to book a chat to talk through whatever you're facing. All right. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Elisha Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at ElishaCowanCoaching.com/call.